And in California, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti is authorizing the city to shut off water and power service to properties hosting large house parties.
While we have already closed all nightclubs and bars, these large house parties have essentially become nightclubs in the hills. Many times the homes are vacant or used for short-term rentals. And beyond the noise, the traffic, and nuisance, these large parties are unsafe and can cost Angelenos their lives. That is why tonight I am authorizing the city to shut off Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Service in the egregious cases in which houses, businesses, and other venues are hosting unpermitted large gatherings.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He's a member of both the House Judiciary and Intel committees. Congressman, good to see you this morning. So how did California get to this point? In the early stages, I'm thinking back to March and April, it was one of the success stories in the early stages because of the shutdown. The transmission was relatively low. And now you're to a point where you're talking about shutting down again. Mayor Garcetti has floated that possibility. What happened in California?
I think in many ways we are victims of our own success. As you pointed out, we were one of the first in the country to shelter in place. And for months, especially in my congressional district, you would see a daily case rate of about 30 to 50 cases a day, relatively low. But as the rest of the country started to reopen, like in Texas and Florida and Georgia, I think people started to get antsy and they wanted to come out, and we let our guard down. And so I think, the lowest common denominator pulled us down. And now as a country, we're all paying the price because we didn't have a national plan.
Eric, tell me what is happening right now with negotiations on the coronavirus relief bill. We have, of course, Democrats and Republicans going back and forth, talking about the possibility of moving closer together. And now the president coming out and saying that he may move unilaterally because, of course, Article 2 of the Constitution, he thinks, gives him ultimate power. But the president says he may move unilaterally if Congress doesn't get the job done. Where is Congress? Are they going to get the job done?
Joe, you've been around long enough to know that plan beats no plan. And 11 weeks ago, we passed the HEROES Act, which funds the testing, tracing, and treatment that's needed. It extends the Paycheck Protection Plan. It also extends unemployment insurance to the end of the year and provides hazard pay and $1 trillion for state and local governments. And the Republicans have been all over the place. They don't have a plan. They have grievances. And so we're sticking to what we believe is needed. And I believe that is ultimately going to prevail. I was at a food bank in Hayward, California, in my district 2 days ago, and the line went around the block of people who probably never imagined themselves waiting in their cars for hours to have a box of food put in their trunk. The help and the need is definitely there, and we need to fulfill it as soon as possible.
And that's the frustration, Congressman. A lot of Americans who need that help last week, not even this week, they needed it a week ago, are watching Congress sort of slow walk this process over a couple of months now, and it's affecting their lives. So what are you hearing about urgency among your colleagues in the Senate? What are they saying? Mark Meadows has said if we don't have something by the end of the week, the president may step in with some executive action on unemployment insurance, on evictions. Where is this going to end? Tomorrow's Friday. We've come up to now a week anniversary, effectively, of those $600 a week payments running out for tens of millions of Americans. Is something about to get done here or not?
It feels like it's moving that way, Willie. But again, we put out a plan. We, showed what our values were. And if the president could have acted unilaterally, he should have been acting unilaterally and presented a national testing plan, back in March. He doesn't have the ability, whether it's his own incompetence or the fact that he just doesn't understand the gravity of the problem, to act unilaterally. And so, we'll continue to negotiate, but I think it's pretty clear what we believe in. And to hear these grievances from the senators, well, we don't want to add to the national debt. That concern wasn't there 3 years ago when they passed, their tax plan, where 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest Americans. And so we're listening to the Fed chair who's telling us it's never going to be cheaper than right now to stimulate the economy and help people in need.
I want to ask you about schools, Congressman. We just reported that the city of Los Angeles, with its giant school district, is going to start the year online. Chicago is going to start the year online. What are you hearing about places like Los Angeles, San Francisco? What does it look like to go back to school this year for all the families in your district?
Mostly will be virtual, and Willie, with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I would love for our kids to be in their pre-K programs. It's by the grace of God that they have not crashed this broadcast yet. But
there's still time.
Until they can have the same, testing and sanitized environments that professional athletes have or the White House has, it's not going to be safe. And we have to put their safety above anything else. But I'm eager to see them get back to school. And that's also why, in part, getting a deal with the Senate so we can fund, the need that's there right now as states face shortfalls is so important.
Let's hope they work something out quickly. I want to ask you about another story. The Manhattan District Attorney is battling the president in court over release of his tax returns. As you know, subpoenaed the president's lender now in what appears to be a wide-ranging criminal investigation into Trump business practices. Cy Vance subpoenaed Deutsche Bank last year for records pertaining to Trump business transactions. According to the New York Times, the German bank complied and supplied the DA's office with detailed records and financial statements. The Times reports the subpoena to Deutsche Bank sought documents on various topics related to Mr. Trump and his company, including any materials that might point to possible fraud, according to 2 people briefed on the subpoena's contents. The president and his company repeatedly have denied wrongdoing, continue to try to have other subpoenas dismissed. Congressman, obviously you were very much involved in the Russia investigation and any links between Trump businesses, President Trump himself, and the Russian government, Russian business entities. What do you make of this story that shows that perhaps the investigation in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is more broad than we originally knew?
It does feel like it's moving closer to an indictment rather than farther away, and it is filling in the gaps that we were not able to fill in when we were, in the minority running the Russian investigation, and that the Mueller investigation did not look at, because they did not look at the finances. And of course, we've been stymied in Congress as we've tried to use our subpoena power to understand the president's finances. But if you just look at the facts here, Russia has invested in the president. The president has invested over in Russia. He's disclosed those. He has disguised or been deceitful about those investments. And so now I think it's important for us to understand, why is he continue to put the president of Russia's interests above ours? And this may be one way for us to find out soon.
All right, Congressman Eric Swalwell, you survived this interview in its entirety, perhaps because it's so early where you are, without the 3-year-old or the 1-year-old making an appearance. Maybe next time. Thanks, Congressman. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
We will be right back with much more Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.